QuiltNCode. This is our 2024 Spring Mini. This is a gorgeous design. It's based off of a Hungarian folk art and heavily based off of Barbara Pixton designs. And so this is just bringing a design to life in quilting. I have done all of this in applique. The reason why is because last year's 2023 Spring Mini was so popular in the applique that I decided you guys just needed that little bit of extra. So this time we're doing all applique, but each block is going to be a nice, manageable project. So we're so glad you have joined us. Let's get started. This entire project is going to be free patterns offered every few days on our website. And so in order to get a free pattern, all you have to do, sign up for our email, and each time one is released, we'll be putting it out on Facebook, and we'll be putting it out through email, and we will be putting it out through it'll just go directly onto our website. You can choose two colorways. We can do a blue colorway and we can do a pink colorway. We have kits for both of those colorways, and on the pattern, you will see which colors you need to pick for each design. And so we do have kits that come in a fat quarter pack that will have your background fabric, it will have your border fabric, it will have all your threads, it has some needles in there to go with your threads, and of course this is a sip and sew experience. So you will be receiving a peach tea, or if you get the blue kit, you get a blueberry tea with your kit. This kit also comes in, both kits will come in a laser cut feature as well, so that all your pieces are already cut out for you. How easy is that? And so if you would like to purchase a kit, you can go to our website in the link here and purchase a kit to go along with the video. Here at QuiltNCode, we like to make sure that our kits have everything that you need to get started. So when you get a kit from us, we make sure that you have your backing fabric, your binding fabric, your border fabric, all the fabrics that you need to complete the project, including we make sure that you have your threads, your needles, your heat and bond, everything that you're going to need to complete the project. This particular video, we want to focus on getting prepared to do the project. So we need to make sure that our background fabric is prepared for all the quilting and appliquing that we're going to be doing on it. I like to make sure that I'm starched really, really good. I did use just a simple starch from Dollar General. I think it cost me $1.50, and I am going to starch the entire back of this fabric. There's two ways that you can do it. And I started by hanging it on a wall and simply spraying that thing all over, okay? And then I'd let it just dry on its own. And then I came in and I sprayed it down one more time, and I let it hang and do its thing. Now, if you're going to do that on a wall or on a floor or anything like that, you want to make sure that you have the space completely protected, because the starch will go on everything that you put it on. And so if you're going to put it on the floor, it does make a floor a little bit sticky. And so I've done it on the floor, and then I just make sure I mop when I'm done with this process. I can hang it on a wall, but before I hang it on the wall, I make sure that I have a cover cloth behind it just so that it'll catch all that other starchy stuff. I don't want to put that on something else, okay? The other way that you can do it is that you can certainly do it on an ironing board. And so you could spray it on the ironing board and then hang it off. But make sure that you realize that anything the starch touches is going to make stuff a little bit on the starchy side, okay? And that's going with any starch. Another one that I really, really love using is the Magic Quilting Spray, but this is on the more expensive side. And so for the beginning of this project, I'm going to go ahead and just use what is nice and affordable for me, since I'm going to need to go ahead and starch a good 1.25 yards of fabric. And so when you see your directions today, it's going to say that you have 1.25 yards of fabric, and then you've got 1.25 yards of binding. I am using the same color for my binding, but I don't need to starch that. So I go ahead and cut that third off and I'll save that for later. I'm only going to starch the yard and the third. And I'm going to go ahead and starch the whole thing. That way I don't have to do this the entire time I'm doing my project. Everything's ready to go and I can applique. Okay, I wanted to show you exactly how wet I get this fabric. You can also use an iron to dry it. So if you're in a really hurry, come on, let's get started with this project, right? So if you're in a real hurry, then you can iron your fabric and that way it gets nice and dry. Me, I like spray it down on the wall and then move and do some other stuff and then spray it down again. And a couple hours later, I have it sprayed down to where I like it nice and thick. So how I get this wet, I really wet it down. I shake my starch really, really good and then flip the cap over to the other end of the room. And then I really spray this down. And I'm spraying on the back side. I'm not spraying on the front side. I'm spraying on the back side. That way if any clumps come out and you can see how it's getting you can't see, but it's getting all around on my table. So I'll be ready when I'm done on the table to wipe it down with a cloth so that it's not there. Okay, so I have really, it is really, really wet. And then I use a cover cloth to protect my iron. And so let me see it. And I'm letting it's just sort of sinking in there. And so it's getting wetter and wetter as it goes. And so it's wet all the way through the fabric. And I'm using a wool pad here. And so that pad is going to protect my table. And, sometimes I use an ironing board. Sometimes I lay this out nice and flat on my table and use my wool mat. It's totally up to you. If you have a small space, then do what you have. That's when the kind of hanging goes. I am using the highest setting I can use on my iron since it's going through my cover cloth. And this cover cloth will protect my iron from getting all that starch onto the iron plate. It is just a piece of fabric. Yes, and this is just a piece of fabric. It is not anything special. It's just a piece of fabric to protect my other fabric. Then I can throw this fabric in the wash if it gets too gunky, and it'll be ready for the next time I go starching. And so I'm going to just sit here and iron away and watch a movie while I iron and take my time. I don't want to sit it in, something that I don't want to set it for too long in one spot. And then I'll move it and I'll do the same thing again. All right, let's get started. So we have prepped our nice background fabric so that it's got it's not necessarily super stiff, but it has definitely got a quality of which it's not going to shrink. It's not going to move on us. And that will help. I don't like using a stabilizer underneath while I'm doing my applique. And so this makes it so I don't have to do that, especially on this project where all our stuff is pretty big. So I'm just going to take a sip of my wonderful peaches and cream tea here. Okay, so some basic stuff about cutting out your fabric. So I wanted you to notice that when I lay my fabric out on the straight of grain, that I have a bit of an overlap right here. And I want you to notice that because if I were to try and force this fabric to go up to where the cut is right, then all of a sudden I should put it this way, my salvage is not lining up. Okay, and so I am not on my grain. What will happen is that things are going to start waving and it's not going to be fun for you. It's going to be very stressful. So we're going to just do this right from the very beginning. And so what I'm trying to do, and I can see it really well since my fabric is starched very nicely here, I am going to line up my salvage here so that my salvage is lined up, and then I am straightening this out so that I can see how the fabric is going to lay nice and flat for me. And I might have, I have an inch here on this end that I'm going to have to clip off, and that's fine. I want nice, smooth, straight of grain fabric to do any project. This is a little different because you're just cutting out squares, but any project is going to really want you to have your fabric cut correctly. Okay, then The other secret to cutting your fabric is to making sure that you're cutting from the fold, okay? Some of you have very small spaces to work in. I mean, that's why you're doing a mini quilt anyway. So if you need to, you can fold it over like that. But either way, this technique is going to work for you, okay? I always, always, always cut from the fold, knowing that I have a part over here that is hanging over the other side. So I'm going to make sure that that part is cut off so that I'm not going to have any wonky blocks, okay? And so we're going to go ahead and start by straightening everything up. I have a nice big mat here, and at home, I use my dining room table. At the studio, I have a nice big sewing space, so I can use my nice big sewing space. I am lining my fold. The fold is towards me, okay? My salvage is over here. That's the loose end, the stuff that we want to cut off and get rid of. But my fold is here. I'm going to line this up on my horizontal line right in front of me, okay? So this fold is lining up right here. You always, always, always want to line up with your fold and not your salvage. I promise me that will save you worlds and worlds of hate right there. Okay, so over here, I want to make sure that I am going to cut off this part over here so that I've got a nice clean line to work with. I am lining up my horizontal line here, and I'm going to cut on my vertical here. And that will give me a nice straight edge. Everything will go nice and clean from there. I think I'm going to move over just a little bit more. And all I'm doing right now is giving myself a clean edge to work with. The other thing is I'm right-handed, so I always cut from the right-hand side. Okay, so I can just get rid of that. And so now I have a nice clean vertical, horizontal, and vertical line to go with. Okay, so now I can turn this fabric over because remember I told you I always want to cut on my right-hand side of my ruler because I'm right-handed. Now I can line up my fabrics horizontally and vertically to do my cutting. And you notice that I am still going to be cutting from my fold. If I have to double over like this, I am going to be cutting from this fold. You still want to make sure that salvage part is away from you. And if you are cutting from, if you're doing a double fold for your fabric, you want to make sure that you take these steps because you just have all that much more insecurity in there for cutting. Okay, so nice thing is I have a nice place I can lay that fabric right on out so it's nice and flat. And I can come right over here and I am going to cut all of my strips 5.5 inches so that I can have all my blocks. Now, I have lined up vertically. I'm going to move this over just a little bit so you can sort of see that yellow line maybe a little bit better. I should have brought my little camera up so you can see that a little bit better. I'm going to line up with my ruler both horizontally and vertically, but I use the numbers on my ruler to cut. I don't cut from my mat if I have a ruler that has my numbers on it. And so this lovely ruler right here has my 5.5 inch mark right there. And so I can cut from my ruler. That doesn't mean that I can't check down here to make sure that I am on the mat as well correctly. And so I am checking in, like, you know how it is. You measure what, 5 times, and then you cut once, and then you go and you buy fabric. Well, if you are using multiple techniques to figure out that you have that correct measurement, maybe you only have to go back and buy fabric 3 or 4 times instead of the 10. So you just never know. Might cut it down 20 or 30%. You just never know. Okay, so I am lining up here. I am lining up here and I'm cutting here on the right side of my ruler. And I am going to go through and I'm going to cut all my strips that way. Now I'm going to cut my 5.5 inch squares. I'm going to need 25 5.5 inch squares for this pink quilt. Okay, those are the center squares. The nice thing about having 5.5 inch squares is that I don't have to, work on getting a whole quilt in the machine while I'm doing my applique. 5.5 inches is a perfect number to work with. So to cut these, I am gonna line up my salvages here. And actually, I've been telling you that I want my cutting space on the right. So I am going to cut these salvages off first, because if I don't cut those salvages off, they are likely to come in later, and I don't want them anywhere near anything that I am stitching. Salvages are not good. They have a lot more fabric and thickness there. Despite the fact that perhaps you think you can use a little bit of that black, get rid of as much of that salvage as you possibly can. So I have 6 layers of thickness here, probably pushing it, but you know, some rotary cutters can handle it, and I have a nice big rotary cutter. So you're going to have to decide how many thicknesses you can go through and feel comfortable with that. Again, I am going to line up with my horizontal line and cut vertically. And the other thing that I did was I lined up along a horizontal line here. And so I know that I am going to be cutting a straight line. And so it went through my 6 thicknesses pretty well, but you have to use what common sense you have in using your tools, okay? So I knew that was I knew I was gonna be able to do it. All right, now I have a nice cut edge for both my horizontal and my vertical, and I can turn this over. And I am gonna line up again on a horizontal and a vertical line on my mat. Even though I'm not using my mat to cut, I use my ruler to cut. And so now I can come over and I can make 5.5-inch squares with my ruler. Every time I am lining up vertically and horizontally. You're going to need 25 squares. That means that of the strips that you cut from your 1/3 yards, you're leaving 4 strips. Those strips are going to be for this border out here, and so do not cut those into 5.5-inch squares. Let's get sewing. And that gets us started for our spring mini. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you are excited for what's to come. We are going to start with this block right here on Monday. So I hope you will join us. And if you have enjoyed this video and are excited about this project, would you please let us know in the comments, and like, subscribe, and share this video with all your friends. Even if you don't like applique, I promise you, you're going to be able to do this project. It is so simple. I have knocked everything down so that it's nice and easy for you to do. And I'm going to talk you through everything, every single step of the way. We will see you soon on Monday with our first block. Have a great day, everyone. Bye.